Hello, everyone. In today's video, I am very excited to share with you the brand new custom CSS generator for Gavel workflows from my friend Ash Singh from the community, who's a full stack developer, who was able to find a way to take all of the different CSS values or the fonts and the colors and the styling of a Gavel workflow and make it to where you're able to customize it like this, for example, to better match your brand colors for the rest of your website if you're going to be embedding these, or if you just wanted your Gavel standalone workflows to be able to be styled exactly as you want them to. Now, this is really exciting because in the past, you would have to kind of either use some of these pre-built out ones that you don't really get to customize, or you could use one of the boot swatch themes, which are all very good, but you don't have a lot of control over how they come out unless you do some manual coding yourself. Now, what Ash has created is a completely no-code way to do this. So what you're able to do is customize by just creating an account here first. Once you do, you'll be able to sign in to your dashboard where you can create a new module. You can use some pre-built out templates. You can also take advantage of a draft service from Ash where you just need to send him like your brand colors and whatever else. You just submit from here, and then he can turn that back to you within 24 to 48 hours. Since this is still in open beta and being tested and updated all the time, you can just put in some feedback and support if you need any help with anything, and then you can update your password and personal information if you want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our own CSS link together where eventually what you'd be able to do after we create one together is it's going to generate this link for you that you can just copy from here. And then you would take that and go into your back end of your workflow, like here, for example. Say change style with custom CSS from your settings tab where you have questions, output documents, and settings. Go into general settings, say change style with custom CSS, drop that link in, and then that's going to save. And now when we run this, it's going to have all of the different styling updates that I wanted it to have when I was creating it within the Gavel custom CSS generator. So like I said, this is really exciting and it's also really fun to use and get to try to see how it works for you. So let's go ahead and create a new CSS module together. We can give it a name, so we can name it over here on the right. So let's just call this one test CSS for code word hex, but you could do something like brand colors for blah, 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 or you can just call this whatever you want. Where this is going to show up is actually just here, so you can differentiate between the different links that you create. So you can see that within this Gavel custom CSS generator that you're able to toggle on or off whether you have a login. So you can see that the login goes away here. You can see that if you say no header, it's going to take the whole header off for you as well. You can see also here that it's auto saving. So just make sure you give it a second to save. You can also undo and redo if you would like to as well. So let's go through and see what all we can do with this. So if we go under global styles, we can do the header. You can see that there's also some help text if you need help along the way of seeing kind of where it's talking about. So in my case, I just want to take off the header, and I usually do that because I want to embed it in my website. So I don't want to have the header up at the top like this. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is go into the navigation styles. And what it's talking about here is actually this side here. So if we want to change the fonts that are showing up here, we can either choose from the drop down like this, and you can see those change automatically, or we can keep it as the default like this. So it's up to you how you want to do it. And if you want the font size to change, you can do so here. The border radius is referring to the edge here, how round these edges are. So I usually like to keep mine pretty sharp. So you can see that I've made it 0. So now these are really sharp edges. And that's because I like having sharp edges around on my site. So I want that all to match. You can see my buttons have sharp edges here as well. So in this particular case, I'm going to make the font family match my website, which I have Lato and Open Sans. So I can have Lato here, or I could choose Open Sans. You can see them kind of update here along the way. I think in my case, I'll do Lato. So we have our font has changed. We have our border radius that we changed. We can change lots of different stuff as well. Border styles can be dashed, dotted, double, groove, ridge, inside, outside, and you can just play with these. And if it's something that you like, you can keep it. If you wanted to just play with it and then change it later, you can always undo or redo as needed. Now, if we want the completed nav color to change, we can also just test out different kind of colors and styles as we'd like. In this particular case, maybe I'm going to just make it black. And then if we want to change the active background color, which is this one here, we can just play with this and we can choose some pre-selected options, or we can put in our own here as well. In my case, let's call it FC400, which is the hex code of kind of the color that I use around my website here. I can see our active font color, which we can change, or we can undo here. So you can see that you can easily and quickly go through and change the active border color. You can change the disabled background. We can change the disabled font and the border color and anything that you want to change here. Page heading styles, so we can update these as well. So this is referring to this section here. Now for this one, for the bottom border bottom color, you can change that. You can change that. Let's just see first to just see where it is. We can see that that's here. We could change that to black. We could change that to yellow. We could change it to whatever you want. In my case, I'm going to change it to yellow. And I can change this to have a dotted line. We could change this to have a groove. We could change this to have an outset or an inset or a double. So it just depends on what you like. I'm going to just keep it as solid. We can also change the font family, for example. So I'm going to change this to Lato. We can change the font color. I want it to be like a very dark black, so I'm going to change it to a very dark black. And then we can change anything else we want here as well. Next, we can go into the question title style. So let's go ahead and update the question title font to, I'm going to do, let's say, Open Sans for the kind of body section here. And then we can change the font size, the color of the text here. I'm going to keep it, and the weight, I'm going to keep it the same as well, but you can change yours if you want. Under input styles, this is referring to what the font looks like when we have input here. So let me just put Brittany, for example, and let's put Hernandez. And if we want that to change, we can come in here and we can make this Open Sans. So you can see that that's changed here and here. We can change all these different pieces if we want to as well. As far as the input field border color, we can change that as well. You can see all of those changed. I think in my case, I'm going to make them maybe like, we can undo if we want to go back as well. Let's just keep it. I'm going to keep them as the same. We can actually make these field border radiuses more or less, so you can see them turn into more of like a pill shape, where we can go all the way to sharp edges like this. We can also go through and we can change lots of different pieces here. We also can even change things like the error text and font family. So here, for example, you can see that the error message is what's being referred to here. So let me just quickly see before I move on if there's anything else I want to change. So you can even change the border style here to make these all dotted, which is kind of fun, but it's up to you what you'd like to do. I think for this, I'm going to make this Open Sans. So you can see this change here. We can make it italic or normal or bleak. You can see whichever one you want to try. And then you can change all these different pieces as well. I think the rest of that looks good for me. For the next section, I'm going to make it to where we go into the single and multi-select styles. So for these ones, I'm going to make the font family the same by just making it open sans. So now we're kind of talking about these two sections here. And then we're going to go in and see for, let's see, the color, selected label color, the border color. I'm just going to see what I want to change here, which is going to be like the border radius. So I'm going to make those 0 to track with the rest of them. So I'm just making these edges nice and sharp. And then if we go into the hover background color, you can see that that's going to be that kind of hover here like this. So if I want to change that, I can go through and I can just go here, for example, and now you can see that it's changed to this green. So if I wanted that to be, let's say, black, for example, then you can see it like this. You can see that I'm just like kind of going through and changing all of these different pieces. So we won't spend the time just kind of going through every single piece, but just to give you an example and a little bit of a preview of what you're able to do. So here, for example, the hover background color is going to be something you could change as well for a combo box. So in that case here, you can see that I've changed that to black. Button container styles, and then the continue button styles, then the back button styles. You can change all of these things and update them as you'd like. And then once you're ready and it's finished auto saving, so just give it a second to auto save before you continue. You've given it a name. What you would do is say deploy. And then once you do say deploy, once you have all of your different settings updated that you want, then you'll be able to go ahead and use the link. So this is that test CSS code word hex one that I showed you. So we can just go ahead and grab this link and put that over into and switch this out in our settings. And now that we've done that, we can go through and refresh this. And you can see that obviously in this particular case, I didn't go through and do every single piece, but you can see that it has gone to the stage that we were able to get it to in this demonstration. So that is the new Gavel custom CSS generator. As I mentioned, it's super exciting to get to see something like this get created because it really saves you so much time from having to go through and identify step by step what each of these different fields are in order to be able to customize it yourself from scratch without having to use one of um, the other CSS pre-built templates that are out there. So it's just a really, really useful tool that, as I mentioned, is still in testing. So if you find different things that you think would be easier or more helpful, then do get in touch with Ash and he'll be able to really customize that as he's super interested in making sure that this is actually useful for you. I think it is. And I think as he develops it more and more, we're going to be able to see it in more and more workflows, and it's going to save you a ton of time. So that is all for today. I hope this was useful, and then you get a chance to play with this really powerful new tool that helps you to really add some personality and flavor and color and style to your workflows.